I gotta wait for my notes to print. I came prepared today. Welcome to the far side, you guys. My name's Stoney, and welcome back to the channel. First things first, thank you so much for the support on the first two videos. Third video just went up a few days ago. Go check that out. Cole killed that. I just fucking whacked my microphone. Cole killed that video. Yeah, a lot of great tips in there. So today's video is mostly going to be the opposite of what that video was. So if you were to watch both of those videos, your beats will be heat. But you got the drums down, so now you need the melodies, right? Structuring melodies is really important. First of all, keeping the same loop throughout the song makes the beat super boring. I don't know if you can hear that, but the printers. Really? Fucking up my whole flow. God, I can't even get back into it. By altering the melody throughout the track, you're really giving yourself a lot of opportunity to inspire the artist, right? So first of all, if you keep the same loop throughout the same beat, the whole thing is just going to be super boring, super dead, and the artist is going to have a hard time trying to find new flows and new interesting cadences around that. But when you switch up the melody, not only does it give the drums a new bounce, but it also gives the whole song just a new vibe. So the way that I like to start structuring my melodies is one sound, right? So I'll either grab a MIDI, loop something, and I'll listen to it and I'll try to make it my own. I like to transpose it just like 3 or 4 semitones. That way I give myself the opportunity to play with octaves and not have the sample deteriorate on me. MIDI, you can move it up and down as much as you want just because it's a MIDI and you have more control over it. So that's why I like to start with MIDIs. So first sounds, usually what I like to do is I'll just start with the piano, and then I'll bring that MIDI into something new, and I'll try to find a sound that sticks with it. Kind of just like throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks. A lot of trial and error in the first stage, but once you get that, then you can move on to fill out that melody. The way that you're going to want to do that is you're going to want to look at the frequencies and see what frequencies that melody takes up. So for this beat right here, the bass melody takes up a lot between 500 and 1000. That leaves me a lot of room both underneath and above that melody to layer and to add variance. Layer your sounds. Layer them. I promise you it will make everything sound good. Layering, reverb, echo, just making your sounds more present, more human, just kind of like they're in an environment. It will draw in the listener and it will keep them interested. A lot of producers make mistakes when trying to layer their sounds. Just layer their sounds. A lot of producers make a lot of mistakes. Producers will choose sounds that sound well together. Sound well? Right, okay. Producers will choose sounds that sound good together. Producers will take two sounds that aren't necessarily bad for each other, but just won't know how to mix them or edit them so that they sound good together. So for example, on this beat right here, the keys obviously took up between 500 and 1000, as I said before, so I added a pad. A lot of the melody is also in that 200 to 500 range, right? So that's what gives it that low kind of dark feeling, because it's all below the melody, right? What you could do then is lower a little bit of the frequencies between 500 and 1000, just let those keys breathe over the pad and just have the pad fill out the sound. It's not only about choosing the right sounds, but it's about making them blend together. I don't know why I did this, but this is blending. Like for this beat, I chose 9 different sounds, but I never have them playing all at the same time, right? So that's more into the structure, but you can definitely layer the sounds enough so that A, it gives it variance, B, it keeps the artist entertained, C, it fills out the melody, and D, I don't know what D is, but it just makes it lead sounds. So it kind of depends on the track that you're making. So for this one, another like 165, 160 type beat where you got that bounce and you're already kind of up there in that tempo. I like to keep my leads really kind of simple, repetitive, get them stuck in the artist's head, but also change the sounds of the lead. So I could have the same lead just playing on different sounds, and you can layer them to make it together. And modulating the sounds, that's a big one. When you modulate the sounds, not only does it give it a new vibe, but it also kind of catches the listener's ear, because they're like, oh, I heard that, but it's not exactly the same. So like in Logic, you could use things like step effects. That's a great way to do that. You could add halftime to things like chorus, reverb. I know that's not modulating the sound, but at least reverb isn't. Chorus, right? Flanger, all these things. I'm not gonna give you my sauce just because you ain't having it, not giving it. If you pay attention to the beat at the end, you'll notice that a lot of the sounds have a similar vibe. They all carry a different bounce and they all carry a different flow. Lastly, something that's super important is going to be variation. So making sure that it's not the same loop throughout the entire beat, because that's boring. A lot of the beat, right, could be fire, but if you just keep it repetitive and keep it switching on the same things, like, it's going to be boring and it's not going to add flair or finesse, right? So producers, arrange your melodies in a way that keep them interesting and arrange them in a way that fit the vibe of the song, right? So first of all, I'll start with a sound, right? This is all arrangement, by the way, so just from the top, right? We'll start with the intro. I'll take a sound that doesn't really resemble most of the beat and I'll add it to the beginning, just to sort of first initial melody switch happens. Immediately the artist's attention is grabbed, right? So for example, I started with the pad here instead of the keys, even though the keys are more resemblant. Even though the keys resemble the beat more than the pad does. So when those keys come in, they're working with the pad. So when the keys come in with the pad, right, immediately. Oh, that's gross. When the keys come in with the pad, immediately the attention is grabbed and they're just like, okay, let's see where this goes. That's how I structure my intro, right? So I'll have something that's low key. I'll put my tag in the very beginning, right? And then after the first like 8 bars, I'll bring in what the actual melody sounds like, and I'll leave the things that have like things like the pad and other keys with a longer release, just to give it like this big full sound. So when the drums come in, what I like to do is I'll take a lot of the sounds that are more open, things with a shorter release, which is basically like the amount of time it takes from the note to hit until it becomes silent. Like, so a bell has a really fast release, but if you sit there and hold a piano key down, the amount of time that it takes for it to get quiet is a lot longer, right? So I'll choose things with a shorter release just to kind of open up sound, give the bass a lot of room to breathe, right? So that when the kick comes in on the second half of the verse, right? So for the first 8, keeping it open, keeping it simple. Second half, we're bringing in a lot of these new instruments, the lead sounds, we're modulating them. We're basically a whole bunch of callbacks, but making them interesting. This might be a horrible analogy, but think about like a comedian, for example. They'll say stuff in the beginning of the show, and then towards the end of the show, they'll reference it, they'll bring it back, and usually that gives, like, the audience has like a, oh, that's funny, I remember that. For music, you can do the same thing. So you can take a sound and then edit it and bring it in later and just give it more variation. So yeah, that's how I structure my hooks. My verses, right, I'll do it kind of a similar way as I do for the hooks. So I'll do the more down tempo, the more relaxed sounds in the beginning. The first part of the hook, whether it's like if it's a 32 bar verse, I'll do the first 16 will be low key, and then the second 16 will be more lit, right? It'll be more up tempo, more bouncy. It's when I'll bring in like the kick and more of the drums, right? So I want the melody to resemble what the drums are doing. A lot of the times what I like to do is I'll add like a pre-hook or a refrain or some sort of melodic breakdown between the end of the verse and the beginning of the next hook, just to kind of drive the energy, right? So the way I want my energy to go is I want it to start real low, and then I want it to start climbing, and then I want it to plateau a little bit at the first part of the hook, right? And then when the actual 8 bars of the hook comes in, I want that to bang, right, to slap. For the verse, I want you to be able to come down from that energy a little bit, bring it back, and then second part of the hook, I want it to be more energetic but not as full as the hook, because you want the hook to be like that's the part that gets stuck in people's heads. A lot of the time, if you have a good hook and a bad verse, people will still listen to it. But if you have a bad hook and good verses, might not get as many listens. So yeah, basically I'm just going to sum up everything that I just told you. Melody drives the energy of the track. Melody also contributes to the bounce. Sound selection is incredibly important, but it's also what you do to that sound and those sounds and how you layer them and how you mix them that really bring out the best parts of the beat. You could have the drums there, but if the melodies aren't keeping the listener interested or providing the artist with new inspiration for flows and cadences and things like that, then your melody's not really doing the job. Thank you guys for watching. Again, We really appreciate the support for the first couple videos. Cole's last video, how to make better drums, came out. Banger of a video, super good. Go check that out. Link will be in the description. I'll try to add a time card at the end. Our music got pushed back a little bit just because of the whole not being able to get to the studio thing, so we definitely do have more music coming out. It's just a matter of when we can get back in the studio. We got a ton of stuff coming out, new videos every week. I think Monday and Thursday is going to be our uploading schedule. But yeah, so this is what the full beat should sound like with all the melodies and all the drums arranged. And thank you for watching.
Stony.